on our official website in our radio form. Can't believe things like this happen. And back home here in Newfoundland, we've had a tragedy at sea where I believe 3 fishermen were lost at sea and determined dead within hours of their disappearance. It's absolutely ridiculous how much negativity we have read about and heard about over the last 24 hours. I wish there was more positive stuff to talk about on this show, but unfortunately there is not. This week, in terms of professional wrestling, there has been so much go on. Sheamus is Mr. Money in the Bank 2015. Wondering what came over the minds of WWE Creative to have Sheamus win one of the only accolades that he had never won in his career after previously winning the Royal Rumble, main eventing WrestleMania, winning a major championship at WrestleMania. We have Seth Rollins retaining the championship over Dean Ambrose in the ladder match a couple of nights ago at the 2015 MITB pay-per-view. Not a pay-per-view with great, outstanding results. It wasn't a 5-star pay-per-view, and not one that I would recommend to anybody given the results, especially with Sheamus getting over as the MITB winner. And what are they doing with Rusev now? Well, they've got him in a program with Dolph Ziggler involving Lana and the infatuation of Lana, which apparently Rusev has lost, and now this infatuation has turned over from Rusev to Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler was in line for a push, was he not, in 2014? At least that seemed to be the way things were going for Dolph Ziggler. I thought by now he would have either been up for the championship or would have been as far as to become champion early on in 2015. And we are past the halfway point of the year, and nothing creatively has been done with Dolph Ziggler. The only thing that's been done with him is he's involved in this Lust storyline with Rusev and Lana, which is really going nowhere. Dolph Ziggler has no major singles championship, and Dolph Ziggler is just basically putting over Rusev for the future in light of Rusev losing the U.S. Championship and coming up on the losing end of things with John Cena, obviously because they have no other way for Rusev to turn in his career. He just came out of the Intercontinental Championship Elimination Chamber match. He didn't win there. That went to Ryback. Was really high on Rusev winning the Intercontinental Championship. At least his feud with Dolph Ziggler would have made perfect sense and more sense in the end of the day than what it does now, because there's no major singles championship on the line in this feud, and there seems to be really no significance for Rusev in this feud. Now, getting him away from Lana, was that a smart move? I really don't know, because I think Lana really brought the best out of Rusev, and she got some time on the microphone. You know, Rusev wasn't the best promo cutter, so Lana took care of the promos and making Rusev stand out better than what he does on his own. So I can tell you I'm a really big fan of Rusev and Lana going their separate ways. Obviously, it's benefiting Lana because she's getting over as a fan favorite, which I have a lot of respect for her for doing, because I didn't really think that she being a Russian heel was the best thing for her character. It might have been being the agent or representative of Rusev and her shots at Vladimir Putin, which got her over as one of the most hated heels in terms of a diva in WWE and one of the most hated heel managers that we've seen in quite some time. Really respected her for doing that and going as far as what she did, although I don't make a habit of taking shots at Russia or any other country outside of Canada and the U.S. on this show. At least it got her somewhere, and it made her stand out apart from any other diva on the roster representing internationality like Paige and many other American divas we have seen kind of come and go in professional wrestling. So I have a great amount of respect for Lana for going as far as what she did with her character, really taking the ball and running with it. Do I think it puts her character in a jeopardizable situation? No, I don't think it puts her character in a jeopardizable situation, not for 1 minute. I think it's going to bring the best of her character out. The one that I'm uncertain about in terms of the future is Rusev, because it doesn't seem like anything creatively is being done with Rusev's character. Who do we put the blame on in this situation? Is it on WWE Creative, or is it on Rusev himself for not really running with the momentum that the separation from Lana could be giving him? I think that really what this is coming down to is WWE Creative lost sense of direction with Rusev's character. And if they had a sense of direction, I mean, think about it. Wouldn't Rusev be Intercontinental or U.S. champion still? In my opinion, you know, a great way of picking up the ball where he dropped it in his feud with John Cena, coming up on the losing end, the short end of the stick, more than enough in his feud with John Cena, would have been for him to go from being U.S. champion to Intercontinental champion, especially with how he represents internationality as a wrestler. He represents kind of the wrestlers like Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. He kind of fits into that category. You know, he comes from a different country, and he's not accepted by the American fans like the Iron Sheik or Nikolai Volkov were back in the 70s and 80s. Definitely the Iron Sheik was one of the diehard, most hated wrestlers by American fans. Sergeant Slaughter, when he became the ambassador of Iraq, the Iraqi sympathizer in his feud with Hulk Hogan, fitting himself into that category. So obviously he was getting a tremendous amount of heel heat is the word I'm searching for there, and he was obviously accomplishing his goal of pissing us all off. And now it seems like the sense of direction has just been completely lost for Rusev. Now, if he would have been Intercontinental Champion of that Elimination Chamber match when Daniel Bryan dropped the title, I would have been more confident in Rusev's direction. But right now, be it that he doesn't have a championship and he's just in a feud with Dolph Ziggler, which is just a way of putting over either one of the two individuals, is absolutely ridiculous. So it's not like there's any significance coming from this. And really, am I wrong in saying that wrestling fans are not as interested in this as they are who's going to be facing Seth Rollins next, or what's going to be the fallout of Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins' latest chapter of their feud, which goes back as far as their days spent as members of the Shield? Am I wrong in saying that there are far more interesting things happening in wrestling? The Undertaker-Sting angle with the Authority seems to be the most outstanding thing going on, apart from what's going on with Sheamus. In terms of mid-card feuds, there's really nothing going on interesting me. Really, what's getting WWE over is who's facing Seth Rollins next, what's going on between the Shield members, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose based on their history, and the Undertaker-Sting angle going up against the Authority and freaking the Authority out with these segments, these pre-tape segments, these promos, which are indicating to us that a higher power is looming in WWE. When, where, and how this is going to surface and emerge, I have no idea. I would assume it's going to be a couple of weeks before SummerSlam, probably 2 to 1 week before SummerSlam. We're going to see something done with the Authority and Sting and Undertaker, or as early as after SummerSlam, the night after SummerSlam, less than 24 hours off the heels of SummerSlam. That's probably when it'll come into fruition at the latest. So really, there are far more outstanding things in WWE to look forward to rather than the fallout of the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, which gave us nothing. I really feel for people who purchased the full pay-per-view price on satellite and digital cable rather than subscribing to the network. And I got to put this out there. With how lackluster and how much of a clusterfuck these pay-per-views have been, I would recommend that you subscribe to the network before you ever purchase the pay-per-views at full price on the satellite or digital cable subscription that you have. Because it's just ridiculous what kind of pay-per-views WWE have been putting out here in 2015. What really have pay-per-views been worth purchasing for? They really haven't been worth much, and I don't recommend you purchasing a pay-per-view for full price through your digital cable or satellite subscription. If anything, subscribe to the network. You will find a great difference in price, a significant decline in price, and it won't be seeming like so much of a loss for you if you're watching these pay-per-views month in and month out. I did it back in the early thousands when you had no other choice but to subscribe through your digital cable or satellite subscription because they had no network back then. And sometimes pay-per-views would live up to your expectations, sometimes pay-per-views would exceed your expectations, and sometimes pay-per-views would just be not worth the money or time you invested into them. And I spent up to $300 or $400 sometimes within one singular year on pay-per-views. That would include every pay-per-view purchase, sometimes twice a month. By 2004, when they were putting out 2 pay-per-views a month for one of each respective brand, Raw and SmackDown. Sometimes they'd have a Raw and SmackDown pay-per-view within 1 month. Sometimes they'd split it up with 1 month going to Raw, the other month going to SmackDown. After spending $300 or $400 in one singular year, I can tell you, sometimes pay-per-views live up to their expectations, sometimes they're not worth the hype, and sometimes they're not worth investing the time or money into. So I would recommend that you subscribe to the network with the matches they are giving you as main events. I mean, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, yes, it may be a good program, and they may be able to work against each other in the ring. But, I mean, you put Seth Rollins in the ring against someone like Brock Lesnar, you're going to want to see that match to see Brock Lesnar rip Seth Rollins limb from limb, especially with how Seth Rollins stole the title from Brock Lesnar. And Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, yeah, may be able to work together as a pairing, but really, is this a main event you want to see a pay-per-view for? Is this really what you want to be purchasing a pay-per-view for at full price on satellite and digital? I don't know. I wonder sometimes if these wrestling pay-per-views are really worth the price that they're going for, and if they're really living up to the expectations of a wrestling fan. We have come all the way from Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock and Triple H to a match with Rusev and Dolph Ziggler being the focal point of pay-per-views, and I really hate this idea of how we've come from the Attitude Era to this new childhood initiative. And who do we blame? Do we blame people like Sheamus, King Barrett, and now Rusev for this? Probably we can as wrestling fans. Should we? I don't know. Or should we be putting the blame and pointing the finger at WWE Creative? Because right now in this three-way angle with Lana, Rusev, and Dolph Ziggler, The only one I see benefiting from all of this is Lana, because Lana's getting over as a fan favorite. Fans are giving her a tremendous response, and that she deserves credit for, and I will put her over as one of my top 5 favorite when it comes to international divas. She's definitely one of my top 5 favorite when it comes to international divas. In terms of American divas, maybe not so much. Preferably, I'd love to still see AJ wrestling and the Bella Twins still being on top of the division, which Nikki Bella technically still is because she's still champion and has been that way since December of last year, back in 2014, winning at the TLC pay-per-view, and she's been holding on to that title very diligently. But in terms of international divas, Lana is definitely somewhere within the top 3 or the top 5 list of divas that I can compile for you. When it comes to divas like Paige and Alexis Bliss and people like that, I really am proud of how far people like Lana have come, because she's proving a lot of critics wrong, and that's more than what I can say for a lot of individuals in terms of both the male and female rosters in WWE. I want more exuberance out of WWE, and I